Hey there, it's your Uncle Ringo. I've got someone from the Labor Party. This is my friend Neel. Say hi, Neel.
Hi, Neil.
So, over at the Labor Party, we've got a group of people that go ahead and work to go ahead and do a lot of things, and I decided I wanted to go ahead and bring Neel in to go ahead and talk about the Labor Party because I'm still learning about the Labor Party, and as you can see, Neel has this wonderful shirt here that promotes the Labor Party.
Available on our website. It's beautiful. I won't stand up and show you the back, but it says fuck billionaires, vote labor across the back. So it's very provocative. It gets people going.
It's a really nice shirt, and I mean, to be honest, I do like wearing provocative shirts. I wear you
Absolutely.
can't see it, but I've got the pentagram there with Baphomet, and I also live in a very religious town, so people don't like it while I'm walking around like this.
Yeah, and then whenever we originally designed these, one of our graphic design guys mocked this up for us. And originally, the fuck billionaires was on the front, and then the Labor Party was on the back, kind of like a jersey across the back,
Yeah,
which we loved. And originally, we were going to run with that, but then as we got to thinking about it, we were like, if I want to wear this out in public, I could put like a flannel on over it and cover up like the expletives if I'm going to like a restaurant or something.
yeah.
So if you're putting on the back, you can cover it with like a flannel or a jacket and still have the labor on the front. So it was one of those things where like, how provocative do we want to be? We still want people to be able to wear things out in public. It is
Yeah.
generally a good standard to have.
Well, and it's like some of the meetings that we've had, we always end them with "fuck you, Ronald Reagan," and we were considering making the podcast named "Fuck You, Ronald Reagan," and I love the idea.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem that I ran into while I was thinking about it and talking to some friends, they were like, I wouldn't listen to that podcast if if it wasn't you running it, I wouldn't listen to that just because it feels like you're only going to be talking about Ronald Reagan.
Yeah,
And don't get me wrong, fuck Ronald Reagan. He's a piece of
absolutely.
shit.
Fuck Ronald Reagan. 5 ways to Tuesday.
Yeah. And may his corpse never rest in peace for all the pain he's given us.
It's one of those things where you can almost anytime someone brings up something like I hate this facet of American politics or like just Americana in general. I'm like, so if you trace it back, there's this guy named Ronald Reagan. Almost every time, without fail. He is like the root of the real shitty tree.
And like it's so fucking funny to me how much goes back to him. I mean, there's some stuff that doesn't go back to him, but it's very rare, very fucking rare.
Yeah, Ronald Reagan is to American politics what Billy Graham is to modern like American Christianity. Um,
Right?
so I'm reading a book right now called Jesus and John Wayne, and it talks about like how did we get to the place we are today and like the Christian nationalism and like just the false religiosity in America, and it basically traces it all back to like World War I, World War II, like conservative religious evangelicism, and how they were like we need to reclaim like what being a man is, what it means to be a provider, being a soldier, being a fighter, and it's like you trace all that back to like, and now we have Donald Trump. So it's like Ronald Reagan and Billy Graham are responsible for a lot of this. Which like Billy Graham, I think he's not to get on a tangent, but like I think he in his heart of hearts believed he was doing what was right, whereas Ronald Reagan generally just wanted to fuck over the American people.
Yeah. Well, like I've had conversation. I think I had a conversation with Food Cran about some of this sort of stuff, and he and I were talking about it. And I was like, for me, man, when it comes to these sorts of things, like I have like the only way I can rationalize it is some of these idiots that are in power, aka Trump and Elon. Like somewhere inside their mind, they think they're doing the right thing, whether it's the right thing for them or the right thing for Americans. I like, for me, if you're getting into doing like what you're doing and it's going to affect millions or the whole entire planet, something in your head has to tell you, oh, this is the right option.
Yeah,
Whether it's the capitalist mindset that a lot of Americans are born with, because you're just giving capitalism from the very beginning.
absolutely. And I think
What?
that's the problem. Is like it is treated as the only option.
Yeah.
There is no alternative in the American psyche. So you're like, hey,
Right.
capitalism is bad. I'm like, yeah, but it's what we got. It
Well,
can be
like
tweaked.
that. Yeah, that it could be tweaked. It could be tweaked so hard on everything. It's one of those things. Like I watch a lot of fiction. I read a lot of fiction. I mean, I haven't been recently. I've been reading on Tyranny
Great
over
book.
here. Yeah, I love this. It fits in my back pocket. It's funny. We had to go to the hospital the other day because my kid twisted his ankle, and I pulled this out, and people were looking at me like, "Where did that book come from?"
It's a great book, and I think I really like. I read that recently, and it's got a lot of. It's very bite sized. Like you can
Yeah,
like read a section, and then just kind of chew on it for a little bit, and then it's very quotable. You know, like rule number one: don't obey in advance. That's
right.
easy to spew, and it makes sense.
Yeah,
Like the Timothy Snyder, I believe, is the author's name. Very well, like he's. I read a lot of political theory books. I mean, you could see I got a giant bookshelf behind me, and like the whole bottom down there is like all political theory, and I read a lot of it, but so much of it, when I try to explain it to another person, you know, it's just so much and it's complicated. On Tyranny is so bite sized and so user
yeah,
friendly. It's a great book that you can like
yeah.
just hand it to someone and be like, give this a read.
Right. And it like I just like how it uses like terminology that's not so difficult to go ahead and get into.
Yeah.
Like I've I've been getting more and more into politics as things go on, and I start learning more and more like, oh, you can go ahead and primary a politician. I'm like, what the hell is primarying a politician? It took me forever to figure that one out. But I mean, when you talk to someone about politics and they've never interacted with politics before, and you start throwing out things like the Senate, the House, primarying, you call your representatives. America's education system doesn't go ahead and get
Yeah.
us prepared for these sorts of conversations.
I mean, it's meant to be that way. There's a one of the sort of, I don't want to call it fascist because I don't want to use that word very loosely.
Yeah.
But it's, if you want to set up a system that does not allow for critique. So whether you're starting a business or you're setting up any type of organization and you want to proof it in such a way that people on the bottom cannot critique the people on top, red tape is like rule number one.
Yeah.
The more steps between the lowest employee and the highest employee, the more steps you can put in there, the better. If you want to insulate it from uprising, I guess you could say. And so, like,
Yeah.
that's the thing is, like, American politics is designed in such a way to where there's so many hop, skips, and jumps to get something done. I mean, and we've been seeing it, you know, as we founded the party, the more we had to read on, like, policy and procedure, it was ridiculous. Like, some of the hoops we had to jump through just to, like, stay above bar.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, they obviously they do that intentionally. You know, lawyers make millions just reading contracts. So there's reasons for it. It's the more confusing you can make it, the harder it is for people to participate in it.
Yeah. I can tell you from direct experience from my time in the military. When I enlisted, I was 17, and they handed me something about like this thick,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, this is the beginning of your contract. There's 3 more of these that you have to go through before you can like go off to basic, and you have to sign off on like a billion different things. And 17-year-olds don't know what that is. I'm 33 right now, and I wouldn't know what the hell I'm looking at if you handed me that stuff right now.
Yeah, and again, they do that intentionally.
Yeah.
It's very intentional.
Yeah. But the one thing that I've enjoyed about the Labor Party is we've been really good at making things kind of simple to go ahead and understand with the Labor Party for the most part. So, I honestly, here's a good question for you. What is the Labor Party for anyone
Okay.
that's
Best way to put it, and I have 2 different answers depending on who I'm talking to.
yeah.
If I'm talking to Joe Schmo on the street, I do not know their political leaning. I don't know their education level. I don't know anything about them. I've just met them. Bottom line, party for the working class. And that sounds super simple, but truly, and I just did a presentation on this on Sunday, kind of like how Ronald Reagan, everything in American politics traces back to Ronald Reagan. Everything within the Labor Party traces back to pro-working class. So like all of our economic policy, our international policy, our platform is 12 points long, and then each of those points is like another 10 below it. Every one of those is informed by, will this benefit the working class of America? If not, then we take a long, hard look at it and say, maybe this isn't beneficial. Because a majority of America, if you break it down, demographically is working class. And when we say working class, we're not using necessarily Marx's definition. You know, we're not using like proletariat and bourgeoisie. Just because especially when you have things like middle management, upper management, like those lines become a little bit more blurred.
Hmm.
But just people who work for a living, provide money to this country through taxes or some other system, which is damn near everybody, you know. If you are
Unless you're
working
worth
class,
billions.
yeah, if you're working class, our policies are designed to help you. That's the plan. And what that looks like is very different in different areas. But to answer the question of what is the Labor Party, it is a party for the working class. And if you, as a working class individual, think to yourself, what benefits me directly as a working class American? What does not benefit me as a working class American? That's where our policies line up. And there's a lot of things that we've kind of thrown out as like freebies, I guess you could say. Big one is the number one extension of we believe in workers' rights. What are workers' rights? So then we go to, well, human rights. Human rights are workers' rights, right? The ability for every person, regardless of sex, gender, creed, ideology, whatever, to have a fulfilling life, to enjoy the product of your labor. And so it's like, hey, one of the big questions when we first started was, are you guys going to support, LGBTQ rights? Absolutely. They're working folk, just like me and you. Their rights should be protected.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter what they do in their, I guess you'd say, personal life, but America has made their personal life very political. But it doesn't matter like what someone believes as far as who they love or like what God they believe in or their lack thereof. Does not matter. We're all working class Americans. We're all busting our ass to put money into this country.
Yeah.
You deserve to have equal rights under that protection.
I'm sold. Sign me up. Oh wait, I'm already. So then, if you were to talk to someone that had a completely different mindset, how would you go ahead and introduce the?
So when I talk to more, I guess I'd say politically minded people, like if I'm talking to people who have run for office or people who are already involved in a political party, like, if I talk to someone who's like within the Democratic Party, like a part of a, around here, Charleston County Democrats or, South Carolina Democrats, my conversation with them is a little bit different because they understand like what a party means. Like, what does the word party mean? Is like,
Mm-hmm.
we are an electoral body. We want, as our, one of our secretariats says, butts on ballots. We want to run races and win those races to shift the political needle. There's this neat concept, and I'll be dropping a lot of these, so this can be a little knowledge bomb. There's this concept called the Overton window that most people aren't aware of, but it's a very political concept of basically if we imagine that there's the left and there's the right, and I think it might be mirrored on your screen, but whatever, left and right, okay, and then there's all the in between. In America, the Overton window is way over here. What
Yeah.
America considers left is in reality pretty moderate. And so that's this concept that the central point in America is not central on the world scale. You
Yeah.
look at what conservative parties believe in like the UK or Australia or Canada even. What their conservatives believe in would make our conservatives head spin. They're like, oh yeah, of course we support universal health care. Who wouldn't? And then
Right.
here you're like, wow, that's some crazy Marxist theology. Like, no, it's not. Most of the moderate parties and even conservative parties across the globe all agree on that. It's just America has drifted so far to the right that even our Democrats, which globally are moderate at best, are considered leftist.
Yeah.
And so our party is not a socialist party. I think that's the number one clarification to make because we do get that accusation a lot. I could see why in America people would see us as socialist. But if you go to any other country, we're just the guys on the left. We are the progressive party. So when I'm talking to someone who's politically minded, they have a little more knowledge about like the Overton window and like when I say we're a leftist party, like we are globally leftist, not American like radical Antifa leftist, whatever Donald Trump feels like calling us today.
I have to say, I recently found out, like I had known about the Overton window for a minute there. I don't know if I understood it, but like having the explanation brought up to me by my friend, and him telling me, we are not like our country is far. Ow! I got a cat that's biting me, so every time you see me do that, that's what that is. She is mean. But when he explained that America is farther right than I ever really realized it was compared to the rest of the world, he's like, when you say like a politician is leftist, worldwide that's like closer to central at best.
Uh-huh.
I was like, what? And he's like, no, serious. Like, if you look at other countries, we are so far right that our left is closer to center right.
Yeah.
Most times. And I was like, okay.
Which
I don't
also
like that.
is terrifying because that also means like you have like that cannot remember the initials. It's I think it's the A something P or A something D party that Elon Musk spoke to in Germany. And like, oh yeah, they're a far right party.
I believe that's
that
the
also
AfD.
means they're much more far right than our far right. Like that's the flip side of it is if our Overton window is shifted and we're like, oh, these guys are far right. It's like, well, for America they're not. You look at like Germany, their far right party is far right.
Yeah.
You know. So it's like it's a double-edged sword, but America definitely, we are a conservative country by and large.
Yeah.
You know, on the global scene, we are a conservative country. And that's why a progressive party like the Labor Party is identified as socialist, as, you know, communist or whatever. And we're not. We're truly not. I mean, if you look at we do take some, I don't know if liberties is the right word, inspiration maybe from like some socialist movements in terms of like, you know, the rose was originally a socialist symbol that has now been adopted as the symbol for the labor movement across the globe. If you look, again, the Labour Party in the UK uses the rose. We still use the rose. It has different meanings to different people, but it is a symbol of the broader labor movement. They spell it wrong, they throw a U in there, but, you know, it's whatever. They're still cool, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, they lost the Revolutionary War for a reason. So
That's where the U went. They can hold that.
But yeah, no, that's definitely interesting to go ahead and learn about the Labor Party, because I mean, realistically, like, so I recently got into a conversation with someone on Threads, which, by the way, Threads is such a horrible website.
All the meta-run sites are just awful.
Yeah, and I mean, when it was competing against Twitter, I was super excited about it, but then it just turned into another Facebook style Twitter. Ugh. But I got into a conversation where like someone had posted something, and I was like, "Hey, go to the laborparty.org to go ahead and join us over there. It's a worker-run group. It's workers for workers by workers." And the person all caps me, "No, third party is ruining this country, and they're pulling away from the Democrats." And I was like, first and foremost, your argument is terrible for one reason. Third party, at best, has only ever pulled about 1% of voters away from any other party, okay?
And that's if you aggregate all the third parties together.
All third parties together. And I was like, if you wanted to have an argument that, like, I could see kind of, like, holding water, is going, oh, well, fighting for a third party feels kind of, like, pointless. Uh-huh. And I would be like, okay, sure, you can argue that, but I feel like having a third party gives you options to go ahead and push the envelope, to go ahead and push back. Because I hate Jill Stein. I think that she's like one of the worst people to pop up every 4 years. She only pops up every 4 years.
Yep.
She never does anything.
No.
But her popping up allows for parties such as the Labor Party to kind of show up, or like the Green Party and other ones, to kind of go like, hey, maybe start looking at us over here. We're not going to just disappear after 4 years.
And I think a big downfall of third parties, and you brought up Jill Stein, and I love bringing up Jill Stein, to use the Green Party as a bad example. And I'm sorry, I'm going to hate on the Green Party a lot. Just
no, dude.
There's an easy target. So whoever's watching this, if you're an avid Green Party member, I don't hate you. Your party just has a lot of work to do. Trust me. They do kind of just show up every 4 years. You know, they're like, we have the Republican primary, Republicans pick their guy. We have the Democrat primary, Democrats pick their guy. And then Green Party's like, by the way, we also found this person who's been kind of just AWOL for 4 years. But I think the big thing is, if we as a Labor Party show up in 2028, I believe is the next election, if we show up in 2028, say, here's our presidential candidate, we're not going to do anything. They're like, third party, stealing Democrat votes, who cares? Our goal, we will most likely unless something changes drastically. Not run a candidate in 2028 for the presidential election. You know,
Yeah.
we might throw an endorsement behind somebody else, but we do not intend to run a candidate. And the reason we're doing that is because we don't want that spoiler effect that so many other third parties have. Our big plan electorally is we will primary with Democrats if we have to. You know, in places where that's the strategy, that's the strategy. You know, maybe David Hogg will throw some money our way now that he's knocking out some of the old heads. So hey, we'll take it. But I think the big thing is we're going to run local, because what we don't want is in 4 years we show up and say, hey, cast your ballot for us, and they're like, I've never seen you before.
Yeah.
You know, we want to get people on city councils, county councils, get people on school boards, get people, you know, involved in the community, and that's why a lot of our work we're doing is integrated into other organizations. A big question we get is like, oh, are you guys like DSA? And I think the big thing is like DSA is not an electoral body. They cannot put up their own candidates. They can only endorse other people's candidates. And like the DSA, they have some good stuff they're doing, especially like as far as their working groups and their organizing, they're really good at it. Like when they want to get something done, they get the people together and they get it done. And that's the thing is like, we want to be there. We want to be at that table. We want to show up with the DSA and do the work. And then in 4 years, when we have a candidate, we say, hey, we stood by you for 4 years. Now we're hoping you'll stand by us right now. And I think that's our big strategy is we don't want to start a new table and tell people to pull up seats to our table. Is we want to be invited into other people's table. And then if there's an after party that we're throwing, we'll hope they'll show up. That's kind of our mantra, is we're not setting up new tables and telling everybody, all right, abandon your table and come join ours. Is we want people to add an extra chair at the end, slide us in there, and like I said, if there's an after party in 2032, that's when we'll hope they'll show up to our table. And I think the big thing is getting the groundwork and actually, again, not just showing up every 4 years. We need to be there for the 3 years before an election as well.
Yeah. See, I joined the Labor Party right now while I'm 33, so I can work for the next 2 years, and then you guys can endorse me, so I can go ahead and be president. And
there you
go. If my wife was here, she'd laugh. I've been talking about like politics like nonstop. I mean, who the fuck hasn't at this point in time? Like, so much stuff has been going on. But like, when she and I discussed like the Labor Party, and I started saying that I was going to be doing this for the party, she's like, "Well, you've mentioned politics for like the last 4 years, maybe, you know, wink, wink, nudge, nudge." And I was like, "Oh man, I opened up that can of worms, didn't I?"
Yeah, and I will say, I think politics at the local level is a lot more accessible than people think. I've managed / worked for a couple local campaigns, and they're really not that, I don't want to say not that hard, because it is a hard fought election. But as far as like just getting the people together and getting it done, like I encourage anybody who's politically minded, if you have the time and resources, do it. You lose, okay, you go back to your job. You know, for most positions, you can run on your free time. You can run for office on your free time. Now, if you're running for like governor or Congress, different story. But like your town councils, city councils, library boards, school boards, that's where we need to be putting people. And I think that's where the Labor Party is really going to focus. And the thing is, that's not like a foreign concept. That's what Moms for Liberty did. Like the reason we have all these problems with schools is Moms for Liberty, which is an arm of the Heritage Foundation, which is an arm of the Republican Party and really the Tea Party, but they infiltrated all these school board elections because no one was running for them. Most school board members were people who got elected 30 years ago on a whim, and they just kind of sat there, uncontested. So Moms for Liberty came in with some fresh blood, stirred up the pot, won a ton of seats, and so they're able to influence like major legislation. You know, it's not a big deal. Like if I ran for my local school board, it's not a big deal if one guy wins, but if we have a few thousand Labor Party members and we secure 100 different school board seats, you can shake up the education makeup of a state by doing that.
Yeah. Well, like I don't know if you've seen my TikToks, but this is one that, you know, I mean, I need to be a little bit more direct with it, but I tell people, build community. You need to be building in the area that you live in. You need to know your neighbors. You need to go ahead and work with the school boards. You got to go ahead and work with the town council. You need to understand who it is that is around you, work with them, build friendships, and start building from there, because that is the only way that we are going to go ahead and change anything that's going on in this country.
Yeah.
Because my joke about me jumping into presidency, I'm not going to change anything. I'm one person.
Mm-hmm.
I would need someone in every branch of government, from the presidency all the way down, following everything, doing what Trump is doing, essentially, how I mind it, to go ahead and change things.
Yeah.
But
And I think that's the thing is, like, I do want people, and I'm really hoping, and I want to be careful how I say this. I think the one good thing to come out of the 2024 election is so many more people are on fire politically.
right,
And I think what 5051's doing, I think that it's, to me, it's like a monthly reminder of where we're at as a country.
right,
And, there's a lot of people who, they don't have time to protest. They don't have time to stay plugged in. But if at the beginning of every month we're having a nationwide protest in like every city across the country, reminding you, hey, you need to be in the streets. And if you're not in the streets, start filling out that paperwork to run for office.
right.
Things like that. I think that is such a good reminder of capitalizing on that fire, because so many people, the day after the election were like, how did we get here, and how do we make
Right.
sure it doesn't happen again?
Yeah, how do we change this? Because now the house is on fire,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when you're like, I've got a bucket. I have a bucket. Can I start dropping water on the house? Is that going to go ahead and do it? It's a start.
Mm-hmm.
It's a start. I know for me, like, when my friend pointed out the Labor Party, she was the one who directed me and my wife to it. And I was like, I need to do something. And like, you guys welcomed me in and all this sort of stuff. And then like, I started learning about all the different stuff. And like you said, hey, we're trying to go ahead and get people to start stepping up, doing stuff. And I was like, okay, so my wife and I need to start interacting with the school board. We have a kid, and they're struggling against the administration right now. We get emails occasionally where they're like, so the administration said A, but we're going to stick with the original plan that we've been doing for a reason, because apparently the administration likes to do this thing where today they say A, tomorrow they say B,
Yeah.
and then Thursday they say Z, and you're just like, okay, well, we're not going to pivot. So I think that having, like you said, people like you and me and other people in the Labor Party going ahead and actually getting into these school boards and the town councils and the mayor positions and stuff like that. Because, like you said, like, I remember growing up and like seeing like the school council where I grew up. They had been there for 1,000 years. They were turning to dust there in the seat, and they were just like, "Oh well, if no one's going to go ahead and primary me."
And the thing is, like, when I voted in 2024, I had my federal elections, who am I voting for these seats. And then I had my local stuff, like my county stuff. Most of them ran unopposed, which means that a couple of months ago, they showed up to the state election commission office, they filled out the paper on the dotted line, they paid their filing fee, and then they walked away. And they said, I got that one in the bag, because no one stepped up. I think that's the big thing is, like, I know for 2026, which is the next cycle of elections, midterms, I want all these people running uncontested, especially the Republicans,
Yeah.
even if they are guaranteed the win, I want them to actually have to run a race. I don't want them to just pay their filing fee, walk away, and then come November, their name gets checked. I want them to actually have to run a race and actually have to do ads and actually have to do debates and campaign, not just show up and win.
Right.
It's participation trophies is all it is. They put their name on the box and now they got it. So I think that's the big thing is, as the Labor Party, if we can challenge some of these uncontested elections, again, even if we are fairly confident we're going to lose, just putting our name down forces them to run a campaign, forces them to show up. Because then people are going to go, oh, hey, wait a minute. I've never thought about this guy before. Why did I elect him? And I think that's where we got to go. That's what we got to do, unfortunately. As a country, we became so complacent and so focused on the presidential election that we left our guard open and we let all of these conservative pundits flood into the lower seats of like county councils and school boards.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things we're going to do is we're going to try to challenge those.
Yeah. Well, it's like, so I've got this representative. His name is Jim Walsh, and the dude doesn't do anything. And he pops up in my email occasionally because I wrote to him and I told him I think that what you're doing is dumb and I think that you need to stop. I didn't say that. I was very political in the way that I said it, but like he took that as, oh well, I'll just start emailing this dude because he's in my thing. And I was like, if I was a little bit like better at politics, I would run against this man. But like you said, start low, work high. I think that honestly, if I was to go ahead and start with like the school board, see how I deal with that, then go town council, maybe run for town mayor and then governor, so on and so forth. Do like low level stuff. But I mean, realistically, yeah, that's one of those things. Like for anyone that sees this, if you feel that you can contribute or that you feel that you need to do something to change what is going on, this is one of the best ways to go ahead and do it if you can manage this sort of thing. And like Neel said, you can do this in your off time. You can do this sort of stuff when you're not working. Do it on the weekend. Do it when you get home. The nice thing is, a lot of us that are of age to go ahead and run for office have cameras and mics and stuff like that. We have, I don't remember what her name is right now off the top of my head, but she's running for office right now, and she's like 30, and she's a Twitch streamer or something like that. I don't know. She was like, I am tired of what's going on. I feel like I need to do something, so I'm going to run for office. And I was like, holy crap, this person's my age, and they're like a YouTube streamer or a Twitch streamer or something like that. Uh-oh, we've hit that point in time.
And I think it's really not. I don't want to say it's not hard, because having worked 2 campaigns, there's a lot of time and sacrifice that goes into it.
Mm-hmm.
But realistically, like, you show up, you go to your state election commission, you file to run, done. There's usually a filing fee that, honestly, if you run like right now, if you run as a Democrat, you can pretty much get that covered most of the time. So, like, here's my thing, is book bans and things like that. I know that's like a really big hot topic item, right? All these books getting removed from school libraries. The president is not determining those. Congress does not determine those. Every book banning situation and books being removed from library shelves is done at the school board level and at the library board level. And those are seats that anybody can run for, as long as I think you're like over the age of 18 and a resident of that county. So, like, if you got a problem with the book bannings and the school and libraries being defunded, run for office. And usually the commitment for that is, I know for like here, when I was looking at running for, I think it was county council, the commitment was you had to go to Columbia, which is an hour and a half away from me, once a week, like every Monday at like 7. That's it.
Okay.
And like be responsive in email. But your time commitment was like 2 hours every Monday. And it's like, I could do that. And I think the pay was like $20,000. Not a lot, but I mean, hey, for showing up once a month or once a week, okay.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah. And like
that's really not bad.
And you do it alongside your regular job, so it's not like you're full-time dedicated to it, but like, that's kind of how it works. Like, dude, honestly, you could drive Uber and be a politician and live semi-decently.
You know what? Honestly, I think that people that do Uber should go ahead and get into politics, because I think that they would benefit from being able to be like, hey, so I do this, and Uber doesn't pay me. So now I can go ahead and go from like low level to like mid-low, and maybe start pushing for House bills and stuff like that goes ahead and does stuff.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, is like, Uber drivers are workers. That's our whole policy.
Yeah.
Is like, we want more workers involved in how our government runs. I think that's the big thing, is like, especially when you look at people who, I'm going to play devil's advocate, but the devil doesn't need an advocate in this situation, is when I look at a lot of Republican voting people around here, and this is something I'm doing a presentation on shortly called the MAGA Mindset, and it's, how did we get here, right? Why did so many people vote for Trump when he's like objectively not good for the working class? Why did so many working class people vote for him? It's because like they feel like it doesn't matter. Like, who cares who I vote for? I'm still gonna punch the clock. I'm still gonna get underpaid and overworked, because like truly, neither the Democrats nor Republicans have had workers' rights in mind for a hot minute now.
Yeah.
You know, so I think if we can get more of those working class people to show up to these, you know, I would vote for mayor or for county council or for town council. I would vote for someone who works 40 hours a week for a paycheck, over someone who's been in politics for 5, 6 years.
Right?
Like, I don't know if that's just me, but I think most Americans agree with that.
Yeah.
And so if you're a
I can see
working
it.
class American, go run for office. And like I said, worst case scenario, absolutely worst case, is you're out $1,000 for your filing fee, and you lose. You go back. I don't even say go back to your job. You never left.
Yeah.
You know, you lose the election on Thursday, you punch it on Friday, and you keep on trucking. Okay, but
Yeah.
you win. You take Friday
You
off.
can change stuff.
You take
You can
Friday
change
off. And
stuff.
you start
Yeah.
working on bills.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
I think we need more people running. Honestly, I think that's the bottom level. Is we need more people in these places to be running instead of these lifetime politicians or children of politicians or roommates, second cousin twice removed of politicians who are like, oh, my granddad was on county councils, then my dad was on county council, and now I'm the mayor. I don't actually know anything about this city at all. You know, you look at my illustrious politicians, which is Lindsey Graham. Love that guy, old Foghorn Leghorn himself. You know, he doesn't come to South Carolina. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure if I dropped him in the middle of Charleston without a map, he would be lost. You know? So it's like, why is he still there? Why is he
Right.
still in office? Why are we still
Right.
voting for this guy? You're telling me no one qualified to run against him? But he's backed up by old money, and he's not going anywhere
Yeah.
anytime soon.
Exactly, and I think that's the whole thing is like a lot of people because like when I was growing up and I've had this conversation with like my dad a lot where he's just like this is just the way that this is the way it is. There's nothing that'll change it. When because my dad is full Hispanic and been you know racially profiled most of his life and all that sort of stuff and like he brings up these sorts of things and I'm like, well, why didn't you ever do anything about it? And he's like, well, it costs money. And it costs money, it costs time, and I don't understand how it works, so I'm not going to touch it. And I'm like, but if you never try to learn, you're never going to get into it. And that's what like I'm trying to do with like the Labor Party is like learn where this sort of stuff is, just like how to do this sort of stuff. And I think like you brought up some things that like I needed to think about because I hadn't thought about the fact that like right now I'm going to school. I have time when I'm not doing schoolwork, when I'm not learning about stuff, where I could go ahead and learn about how to go ahead and like propose a bill. Which, by the way, I also found out that like even though I'm not a politician, I could propose bills to my government whenever I want. I don't know what I would propose,
Yeah,
but
some states do allow for like citizen referendums that like the average Joe can just like petition for a bill. It's not in all
Yeah.
states, but like a lot of states do offer that. Like, and that's the thing is, if you feel passionate about something, the worst they can say is no. You
Yeah.
know, write a letter, petition your state house, and see what happens. Again, they say no, that's fine. You clock in tomorrow and you keep on trucking.
yeah,
But best case scenario, they say yes, and now you're changing something that you care deeply about. I think that's the big thing.
yeah, and I think that's what a lot of Americans need to learn. And I'm glad that we're having this conversation here, so that maybe 10 people will hear this and they'll go ahead and be like, hey, I can go ahead and do this sort of thing. But you have the power in your hands. And if you want to go ahead and get a little bit more power, you get 3 or 4 people to go with you to go do stuff. Like Neil was saying, like he has run campaigns and stuff like that. When you get someone to help you run those campaigns, you get a better chance of getting the word out there that you're running against someone like fucking Representative Walsh that I have that's like doesn't seem to do anything except for like make more prisons, I guess is what he's trying to do. That oh, by the way, he emailed me. He's like, yeah, so I want to open up more prisons, and I'm like,
Thanks, I guess.
why?
I think
We're getting 5 in El Salvador. Why do we need more?
our gulags that we're building down there. It's the age old Auschwitz wasn't in Germany. Just remember that.
God.
Auschwitz was in Poland. That's the important piece of information a lot of people forget.
Yeah. Actually, I kind of wonder what the distance is from where we are to El Salvador.
Might be valid. That might be something that is on a history test here in about 15, 20 years. How far is it from the U.S. to El Salvador? Yeah, I think the big thing is like getting people to run, and I don't want to interrupt the flow that you might have had, I guess, ordained.
Oh, you're good.
Is I think a big thing that I've had a lot of good experience with And if you want to get politically involved, but you don't want to run for office or you don't really know how to start, is there's organizations that are not strictly political organizations. Like the Labor Party, we're electoral. Our goal is getting butts on ballots. But there is other organizations, like the DSA, if that's your ideology. But if that's not your ideology, like jump on with tons of different organizations. I attend a meeting every month called Drinking Liberally. It's part of the Living Liberally organization, and it's literally just like-minded people. We all go to a brewery first Thursday of every month, and we have drinks, and we just talk about like the state of what's going on in our local area and like what we can do to fix it. We sign petitions. We had at the last meeting, I got to give a speech on the Labor Party. We had a state superintendent candidate, like just talk about what they're trying to change and like find out what your local organizations are doing. Because a lot of them are literally as simple as show up, grab a drink on a Friday for a couple hours and talk to people. I'm pretty sure every American has time to grab a drink on Friday and talk to people. Like, just start doing stuff. And I think that's the big thing is like, we need people doing stuff and having conversations and like, and I think there's something for all interaction levels. If you're like, you're nervous talking to new people, which is totally fine. I'm a very social person. I'm very extroverted. I love having conversations with people. And I know there's a lot of people that aren't like me. That's fine. I don't think, if you're introverted, stay introverted. That's cool. We need introverted folks. But like, you can be writing these articles, and I think like people like scared to write. Like, dudes, just start writing. Start a Substack. And just start writing about what you care about. Start writing emails to your congressperson. You can use the 5 Calls app and just start pumping out emails. Flood their inboxes. You're an artsy person. You really like art, but you don't really know how to convey your message. Make some little postcards. Just what you're passionate about. Make some postcards. Slide them in an envelope. Mail them to your congressperson.
Yeah.
They have to. They legally have to open every piece of mail. Flood their mailbox. Like, if you're passionate about something and you're like, I don't really know anything about politics and I'm nervous about talking to people, great. Start filling out postcards and slide them in envelopes. Like, there's so much we could be doing that so many people are frozen with, like, this choice paralysis because there's so much to do, and it's like, where do I start?
Right. Well,
how do you eat a cow? One bite at a time.
Yeah. Well, and like so, like that's the other thing that I've been pushing on TikTok is everybody's got a cell phone. Mm-hmm. There's this thing called 5 Calls. Go download that application right now. Okay. For anyone that's watching this, anyone that's listening to this, download 5 Calls. Okay. You put in your address. It gives you your representatives, and then you can just go ahead and hit a button. It'll call them for you, and then it'll give you a message that you can read that will be directed to them, and that is a good start. Okay. And then from there, you can go ahead and find their address, and like Neel said, write them a letter. Fax them. Go to your library. Go to your library and ask them if they have a faxing machine, and then you can go ahead and fax your representative, your congressman, congresswoman, congressperson. You can email them, message them, text them. If you can go down to their office, go down to their office. Do these sorts of things, because at this point in time, to go ahead and get stuff done, badgering them is the best way to go ahead and do it.
If Nancy Mace wasn't terrified to show her face in public, I would love to, because her office is like 45 minutes from me. Not even. 45 minutes on a bad day. No traffic, I can get there in 20. I would love to just, if she actually was at that office, I would love to just every day after work swing by, I'll bring her a drink, I'll have a drink, and be like, let's just talk about how bad of a politician you are. You got some time? Showing up is free. You can walk right into a congressperson's building and be like, hey, I want to have a meeting with them. Obviously, don't do something stupid and get yourself kicked out.
Yeah.
Be civil. There's rules we have to play by. But have a conversation. And here's the thing is, it's this mindset. I'm going to slightly pivot a little bit. There's this mindset of we're not doing enough. These 50-51 protests, waving signs and congregating isn't doing enough. We need revolution. Revolution is how you don't get taken seriously. I'll say that. Hot topic.
Yeah.
Or hot take, I guess. If you show up and you are, smashing in windows and destroying property and doing things, yes, there's a time and place for that. We're not there.
No.
Because we see how masterfully Trump manipulated that.
Yep.
I mean, he pointed to the summer of love, as he called it. He pointed to, the violent Antifa, the violent leftists. Do you really want them in power? Do you want Kamala, who endorsed all of that, in power? When you do that, you give them free ammunition.
Yes.
And so, yes, there is more we could be doing. Yes, we could be doing more direct action. Absolutely, I agree with that 100%. We need revolution. But we're not there yet.
No,
we're not. We're still at the stocking the food stores for the revolution stage. And I think that's the
Which
big thing is like you have to play with the cards you're dealt. We've been dealt an electoral system. That's why we're an electoral party.
exactly, and something I want to go ahead and like hammer home at this point in time. You should be for those of you that are watching this at this point in time, you should be going ahead and stocking up on stuff, just on the off chance that Trump decides to go ahead and put up more tariffs or any number of things that are going to go on. Because right now he is not funding FEMA. If you're in a blue state, he has shown that he is willing to go ahead and put up so many tariffs that he will kill the whole entire economic existence across the globe. With no care whatsoever, because he likes having a terrible economy, because that's when he can buy stuff. Okay. Buy things that you can go ahead and keep on the shelf for long periods of time, like canned foods, beans. If you know how to make beans, I can tell you right here, right now, the best way to go ahead and make beans is if you have a crock pot, you put beans in, add water, and you let it sit all day on a low temperature. Beans are amazing because they are so fucking easy to go ahead and make. Throw in some salt. If you got some potatoes, throw those in there. Bacon makes beans taste amazing.
Same with bacon grease.
Yeah, exactly. Bacon grease in beans, fantastic. But I'm a fat boy, so you know.
I mean, that's the thing is like rice and beans are shelf stable. They're cheap, easy to make, and like they're pretty calorie dense in terms of like a cup of them will satiate your hunger.
Yes.
Fairly well because they expand in your stomach. They help you feel full. They have a high satiety index. Yeah, I think that's what satiety index. So like solid go-to, and you can buy huge bags of them from like Sam's and Costco for pretty cheap as far as how much you're getting. There's a reason that like pre-industrial revolution people were living on rice and beans because it's easy.
It's easy, and you can carry a lot of meals in a small container. I have like 3 or 4 like 10-pound bags, and I could, if I needed to go ahead and leave the house for an extended period of time where I wasn't going to be able to go ahead and like go to Wendy's, I could literally bring those a pot and some sort of fire starter, and I would be able to go ahead and cook myself a meal that would last me a week.
Absolutely.
And
there's a reason bodybuilders eat chicken and rice. It's easy.
Yeah.
You throw it all in a crock pot and you're fed for a week.
Exactly.
It's cheap. It's effective. Helps you stay lean.
But yeah, that's one of those things that like is always on the tip. Like it's always in my brain is like maybe I need more beans. My kid hates it. He's like, oh.
Oh, see, I can eat rice and beans all the time.
Right.
Nonstop. Delicious.
Dude, rice and beans
I make my own
are
tortillas
so good.
too. So like, all you need is rice, beans, and tortillas, and you're like 3/4 of the way to a banging meal.
Oh yeah. If you can get a little bit of cheese, oh, I'm so happy with that. So I grew up in New Mexico. The other thing, like this is kind of hard for me to go ahead and get, is red chili. Red chili with beans. Oh, I'm in heaven if I can get some red chili. But I mean, oh man, I'm so glad that I'm on this with you and found out that you like rice and beans.
Also,
that makes me excited.
My mom's side of the family is Hispanic, and my stepmom's family is Puerto Rican. So my mom, when I say Hispanic, my mom's side of the family is from Spain. And then my stepmom's side of the family is from Puerto Rico. So, like, dude, rice and beans, I can make it like 20 different ways.
Ooh.
Like,
I love it. I love it.
So easy. Rice, beans, and if I can get some cube steak, it's game over.
Ooh. I have to say, I love how we went from politics to talking about meat.
That's the thing is, like, I'll say this as well, like, that's how you get to know people. Like, I think, in my opinion, you know, like, people have, like, what's your love language? Dude, food is my love language.
Oh,
if I can sit and share a meal with somebody, I'm there. Like
a meal and a
potlucks,
beer.
Community dinners.
Oh yeah.
Dude, you want to rally a community behind a common cause? Throw a potluck.
Right.
You're there.
Right. Well, that's the other thing. Like if you have the space to, and I just recently started one. If you have the space to, start a garden, and then like. If anything were to ever go wrong, at least then you have a garden. You can go ahead and talk to your neighbors and be like, hey, I've got cucumbers, or I've got like tomatoes. Like my wife has like 15 different tomato plants she wants me to plant. We're gonna have so many tomatoes here. If any of the neighbors ever wanted tomatoes, we're gonna be the house to go to for tomatoes.
Fine.
But I mean, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with being the tomato house, because then you know what? Somebody else is probably the potato house, and someone else is probably the strawberry house. You swap and change. I mean, that's what community, the word community, the root word, that's what it is. It's all about coming together for mutual aid of all the people around you. Like that's what a community is.
Exactly. My dad liked telling me when he was growing up, he used to go to the neighbor's house and go borrow a cup of sugar, and like sometimes the neighbor wouldn't even be home, so he'd just walk in, grab a cup of sugar, go give it to his mom, to my grandma, and then like a week later he'd go back to that house with a cup of sugar, and they'd be like, "What is this all about?" And he's like, "Well, that." Yeah, he was like, that's what community used to be, was you would share stuff like that, and like I think that it's sad that America has become so individualized that don't get me wrong, I don't want someone walking into my house and just taking something. I that's the individualism right there talking. I can hear it, but it's like being able to like go to your neighbor's house when they're not home to go ahead and borrow a cup of sugar with them fully knowing that you'll probably go ahead and replace it. Like that is something that is so foreign.
Yeah.
And yet, like, just 50 years ago, they used to do that. 50 years ago, and, like, now we don't.
See, I'm all for, I love solidarity, I love community, until I hit the interstate at rush hour. And at that point is, you are all the worst scum on this planet, and I am right, and you are all wrong. Indicators are for the birds.
Oh, dude. So, little bit of history for me. Okay, so I was born in New Mexico. I had a friend from California come out for my wedding out in New Mexico, and he's like, "God, New Mexicans suck at driving." And I was like, "I've been saying that for 18 plus years at this point in time. You're not telling me anything different." He and I moved up here to Washington, and he and I sat down with a beer, and we were like, "I have never in my life met worse drivers than these than the people up here in Washington."
Come to South Carolina. You will meet the worst drivers in the world. I've driven from farthest north I've gone is New York, farthest south is Florida, and then to Texas. South Carolina, I can confidently say, has the worst drivers in the world, without a doubt. And it's funny, I was having this conversation. The age-old tale is people from Ohio love to retire to South Carolina. And I was talking with someone, they're like, "Oh, is that why your traffic's so bad?" I'm like, no, that's South Carolina. We live in Ohio for a lot, but like the traffic, no, that's us. That's all us. We are terrible drivers. It is. I don't know if this is actually accurate, but I was raised and always told, and most people I talk to agree with this, I don't think it's a law that you have to use a turn signal here. Like, you can just merge freely. And trust me, we do.
So, I don't think that's actually a law anywhere. I know that, like, in the education, it says, you're supposed to go ahead and use it. But, I mean, in New Mexico, there are people that don't use it. And when I was out in Hawaii, there were people that didn't use it. Texas, people that didn't use it. Here, oh my God, like, I don't think that people here in this state know what the front or back of their vehicle is or what a red light is. Oh my God, I have never seen anybody make a left turn on a red light in my existence until I moved here.
See, the only time I use my indicator is to signal I'm coming over. It is not like a, hey, let me over. It's a, by the way, there's about a 1.2 car lengths between you and the guy in front of you, and I'm feeling it right now.
Yeah.
I'm just giving you a fair warning that I'm coming over. This is not permission. This is me just giving you a heads up. I'm being a nice guy here.
This is your warning before I move.
Pretty much. Almost always. But, yeah. We definitely have a special breed of driver here.
Dude, and that's one of those things, like, after being in the military, people will talk about that. They're like, everybody's got a special kind of driver. And I was like, I understand that. I fully understand that. But there are places where that special kind of driver is so much worse, okay? So much worse. There was I don't remember, I want to say it was Socorro. In New Mexico, there was a town that was like, I don't know, 30 minutes south of where I lived. And I lived in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. It doesn't exist as far as maps are concerned. But 30 minutes south of there, they were so rural that they didn't follow, like, the laws of the road, okay? Oh my God. And then, like, going from, like, there to driving in Hawaii, where, like, you're going to go ahead and take 75 years to go ahead and move a mile. There's too much traffic in Hawaii. That's a whole nother conversation. But I mean, dude, I'm so glad to hear someone else, like, just.
And I think we've been rambling about a couple different topics, but I think I can bring this back. Trust me, I can bring this back.
Yeah. I believe you.
I think you can see right there, if I can see on the screen, a little Ted Lasso can. Love Ted Lasso, and there's this phrase infamous in Ted Lasso: "Be curious, not judgmental." He says it all the time throughout the show. He attributes it to Walt Whitman. I'm pretty sure I looked it up Waltman like never said that. They just made it up for the show.
Hmm.
And it's, I think that is so lost in our political game in terms of
Yeah.
having conversations like this. I think you can have innocent conversations like traffic, how good beans and rice is, and like it builds that community that you then capitalize on to get political.
Yeah.
There's so many people I've met just doing random mundane things, and then down the line we get to talk about politics, and you can get so much work done there.
Yeah.
And I think I was a little bit about me. I voted for Trump in 2016, wore a MAGA hat, thought he was God's gift to mankind. I was one of those ones that was, I'm glad he's not a politician. He's going to drain the swamp, blah, blah, blah. Quickly learned the errors of my ways. I'm a full-blown socialist now. So growth is possible. That's the first step. But I think the big thing is, like, when I talk to people, especially around here, I'm in the deep south. It's deep red here. Most people here vote Republican by default. And you ask them why. You ask 100 people, you get 100 different answers. And I think we're missing a lot of those conversations just by writing people off. Now, here's what I want to preface that with. I am not going to be one of those people that says, well, you need to hear everybody out. Because you don't, truly. If someone has made it evident that they support Donald Trump in the year of our Lord 2025, and they support what he's doing, you do not have to hear them out. You really don't. You can if you want. I've done it. I do it all the time. But again, that's my personality. I enjoy that. I enjoy those conversations. But especially if you're a marginalized person, like if you're a member of the LGBT community or you're a person of color or someone whose immigration status is in question, you do not have to hear Republican people out. I'll do it for you, trust me. I like to tell people I'm Republican passing, which gets me into a lot of places. Like, I'm a straight white guy with some facial hair. Like, I look like I voted for Trump,
Yeah.
And so it does get me into a lot of places, and it lets a lot of guard down. And I'll say, why'd you vote for him? Or, they'll say, like, that Elon Musk. I'm like, oh, well, what's he, honestly, play dumb. What is he doing? I haven't really read anything. And, like, when they try to explain it, like, you can see them start stumbling over the words. And sometimes, I've seen it happen a handful of times. Not a lot, but a handful of times. I've seen where, as I ask somebody, oh, what was it, Trump just deported all these people, what are your thoughts on that? I haven't really read a lot about it. What do you think? Educate me on it. And you will see, as they're explaining it, you can literally see the light bulb moment, like, now that I say it out loud, it doesn't sound as good as I thought. And, like, I've seen it. It's wild. Like, sometimes you can let people talk themselves out of their own argument.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big thing is, like, if you have people that are moderate, or you have people who, like, oh, I don't do politics, just ask them, why do they believe what they believe?
Yeah.
Again, if you're in the place to do so. Like I said, I'm Republican passing. I had these conversations daily. It doesn't bother me one bit because, like, my life is not going to be threatened. I know they're not going to hate me for any aspect of myself visibly. So I can have these conversations. If you're a marginalized community, I'll handle it for you. That is my job as a white guy, is to have these conversations. And I believe that truly. Like, there's a lot of people like me, that aren't getting involved, and then they're asking why, people of color aren't showing up to protest. And they're asking why, young high school age Americans aren't showing up to protest. And they're asking why the LGBT community is not showing up to protests. Where are you? You're the white guy. You got nothing to lose. I would never ask somebody to show up to a protest that I'm not willing to show up to. Because, like, I have nothing to lose. My citizenship will never be in question. It's I don't understand it. I truly don't understand it. If you look like me, what are you doing? If you're not at the protest, where are you at? That's all I gotta say.
Well, the only reason why I wasn't at the last one was because I was coughing up a lung. I didn't want to get everybody sick.
Well, yeah, you're sick.
But
It's a little bit special situation.
Yeah.
Like, if you're a straight white guy that has no time commitment or familial commitment, and you're free during a protest, go. They're a pretty cool time to, like, build community. You hear a lot of different perspectives, and you just meet the people who are actually doing the work. If you're someone who's like, oh, I don't have time to get involved in politics, dude, show up to a protest for an hour and a half. You will get so many resources and emails and phone numbers that when you're like, hey, there's this situation going on, I don't really know who to talk to about it, you will now know who to talk to about it. Like, I've met so many people at these protests. Just having conversations, chit-chatting. Why are you here? What are you protesting? Read their sign,